So gay.
Welcome to another live session. Welcome, Meg Watts Film. Welcome to another live. We are chatting today with a special guest. Mr. Braden's here. Well, we don't need an introduction. How about we just let Braden introduce himself? Come on in. Hey, Hannah. Waving at everybody. I think you have to request. There you go. View request. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Whoop. Boom. There he is.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Let me just pull this up a little bit. Boom. There we go. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I just had a bath.
Oh, a bath. I love that for you.
Yeah, me too.
Was it cold enough to, was it cold enough to have a bath?
It's kind of rainy and cool in Montreal.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're in Montreal, right?
Yeah.
Lovely. And I'm in New York City for anybody who didn't know that already. Cool. I mean, I love a bath. I love a bath in the winter mostly. Right now it's actually I think it's too humid in New York already for those sorts of activities, but it's spring. It could totally switch.
It was very much a sauna situation where I like blasted the heat and
Oh,
Mhm.
yes. I
Mhm.
love it. I love it. And I love these plants behind you.
Thanks. I got flowers and my little tree.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Mhm.
Well, this live thing is kind of new to me, but it's a part of Instagram that I really want to tap more into because I think it's more interesting sometimes than just like chatting with the camera, yourself. And so when my sister was saying that she was working with you and I started looking at your stuff on Instagram, I was like, yeah, this has got to happen. So thank you for joining me.
I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell everybody who's watching or gonna watch later, who you are, what you do, and what your platform is all about.
Cool. Well, I've been thinking of myself lately as a spiritual ally.
Oh,
I kind of do a spiritual work with people. Either we're
hmm.
healing the past, or we're getting clarity and empowerment in the present, or we're holding space for a new vision for transformation for the future. So it's
Yeah.
not always just spiritual healing, it's the spiritual world. I kind of dive in there like a little fairy and help them make space for things that you can't say all the time
Yep.
in, conversation with your friends and family.
Yep.
And it's like shame-free, non-judgmental space, let it all out. It gets quite interesting. And then from that real place, we just open quantum space. We
Yes.
open possibilities. We, remind ourselves in the moment of spiritual wisdom and how much is possible, how powerful we actually are.
Yep.
And one of the ways that I or do that, or one of the tools that I bring in, is human design.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a
Very
big, yeah, human design is a fantastic spiritual tool that we have at our disposal right now. So that's
well.
what,
I think that. Thank you for explaining all that. First of all, it's Braden, right? I'm saying that
yeah,
correctly. Yeah. Okay.
Braden. Yeah.
Cool. Braden.
Hmm.
So for anybody who's watching, it's Braden from Montreal. It's so interesting. I think that we are really, like, as you just explained what you do, we're on the cusp of people desiring more than just uh, being able to tell your best friends or talk to your best friends about what's going on in your life, maybe something that's going wrong in your life or that you'd like to change, or just being prescribed some pills to take care of it. I think we're searching for something more. And when I heard about human design through my sister, I was like, yeah, this just makes sense that we're taking this a step further. So tell everybody what is human design?
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say, like, there's nothing wrong with us. We don't need a
True.
pill. What's wrong is the world. We live inside multiple sick systems, right? Patriarchy, white supremacy, capitalism is disgusting. Like, we've got a lot
Yeah.
of toxic systems that are demanding that we use our energy in ways just to survive that don't feel
Yeah.
good for us. And then we pathologize that and we say, oh, you need therapy. There's something wrong with you. You got to fix yourself. No, like, different levels of sensitivity, different types of energy coping inside a very odd world, and a very recently odd world. Like this postmodernism mire that we're in right now is pretty new to our animal species, right? And when we suffer, it's not because we're faulty, it's because our systems are faulty.
Yeah.
So human design is a map of your energetic body. Okay. So if you can picture the chakra system, you've got your crown, you've got your third eye, you've got your throat, your heart, your solar plexus, and your sacral and your root. Well, human design delineates two others. So it delineates the root and the spleen, where your intuition is, as two different things, and your heart and your G center. So the part of your heart that's like, I love me and I love life and I'm going this way. And then the part of your heart that's like, this is what I want. I'm going to do that. You can't stop me. My heart desires it.
Right.
So once you generate your chart, so you use your birth time, date, place, which is, if you think about it, an energetic portal to your entryway into life, right? Like there's only that one time, date, and space. Like there's only that.
Yes. Right? And where you were really, really matters. So let's say, like, just to delineate for 1 second, like I had a twin who was born at the same time in the same hospital. We grew up near each other, and we're very different people. Yes. So like, how does this human design, this information allow you to give, information about my deepest desires, how I make choices, like all the things that human design is there, or even just astrology. Like astrology uses the same coordinates or some of the same information to create your natal chart, for example.
Right. Well, first of all, I have your sister as a client, and I know your charts are quite different from each other. So even when you're born similar times, the time can make a big difference.
Okay.
Even by a couple minutes.
Gotcha. So that is really
So you do need to know your accurate birth time.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
so like I grew up with one of my cousins was born literally on the same day as me, but I actually don't know what time he was born. So now this is answering my own question, that like time of day really must have a lot to do with it. And I really want to highlight what you said, that think of that moment in time as the portal that your soul came into this physical plane.
Yes, for very good reason, because you separated from your mother's body at that moment, and you were affected by the neutrinos in the environment. So now we're actually just getting into science. Science has caught up to this, where the sun, Jupiter, the moon, like all things emit neutrinos, which don't affect matter, but they do affect energy. So they go like this through the universe, like coming out of our sun, coming out of heavenly bodies. So where you are in relation to all that actually like seals your energy in a certain way right as you're born.
Absolutely.
Another way to think of it is that this exists and it's very useful, and if you try it out, it helps your life. So
which is like almost like one of those things about just transformational language in general. It's like the law of attraction, or like other things that have become a little more mainstream. It's like, try it. If it helps you, great. Like you almost don't need to fully believe or understand all of it. I mean, religion as a whole is just like one of these things that people latch onto without understanding it completely, and they seem fine doing that. So
actually science too, right? Like we like to say, like, I believe in science, but do you know how all these things work? No, you're just believing what you've learned.
And that is science. Like I've come to understand that science is just the study of the unknown, trying to make sense of it, doing all these experiments to basically prove something beyond a doubt that this is what it is. And even when that happens, now that we have so much new technology, micro versus macro, Newtonian versus quantum physics, like we are finally able to really dig even deeper, which is changing our understanding of what we thought was the truth, like for sure. Which I feel like human design is now, what it feels like when I talk to my sister about it, is an extension in some ways of like tarot, astrology, Reiki, like all these different types of understanding of energy. Am I totally off the mark, or like what is your opinion of that?
No.
As somebody who teaches it.
No, you're on the mark. Like I think science and religion are now coming to meet each other right now. Like You know, like science was trying to know and understand the truth, and spirituality has been trying to like feel its way into the truth,
Yeah.
and then kind of like, you know, through religion dictate the truth. But
Yeah.
that's a different thing than actual spirituality is our like, it's also our grappling with the unknown, standing up at the edge of what we know and understand, and being, well, actually receiving answers from the void, you know,
Mm-hmm.
visions and messages from spirits and
Mm-hmm.
systems like this. The way this system came into the world is a Montreal man was in Ibiza, I think in a low point in his life, and over the course of 4 days downloaded it like from the what he calls the voice, just like
Yeah.
this is
Was
what
this
it is.
Carl is that his name? Carl Jung? Or no, it's a different
No,
person.
no. His name, well, he went by Ra Uru Hu.
Oh.
His name before that was like Rob something. Okay,
Gotcha.
yeah. Uh, um,
So you teach this, and also how do you describe it? As like you perform human design, or you read human design for people, or what's the language around it?
I read it. So when you go generate your chart on either geneticmatrix.com or
Mm-hmm.
mybodygraph.com, you just Google it and find it, you'll see something that looks like a chart of a human body with these different shapes, and they're colored in or not colored in. There's all these different numbers. It's very technical and scientific looking and hard to decipher. So it takes a long time before you actually get to know, like, what does this language mean? What do these different things mean?
Yeah.
And you can spend a lot of time studying, or you can go to a reader and they can just decode it for you and help you out
And
understanding.
where did you learn to decode? Like, what is that process? Is that similar to like somebody who knows astrology, somebody who knows tarot, that there's just a lot of information that you learn how to condense by reading this chart, which is sort of the portal.
Yeah, I learned personally by doing my chart, all the charts of my friends, learning as much as I could. Like I just get obsessed with spiritual stuff and like
Yeah.
anything that helps you know yourself or slip under the surface of things and go into the inner world.
Yeah.
And honestly, human design, it gives dignity to people because it allows us to respect each other for our internal energy rather than what we look like or how, you know, we appear on the outside. Anything like that, I love.
How does it differentiate from? I use astrology and tarot because that is the other thing that is most prominent in my life. Because my roommate Nikki is a beautiful reader of those things, and so I've learned more and more about them.
Mhm.
How does it differentiate between those?
I would say astrology are like that's like the poetics of who we are, our ego, our spirit, our journey,
Mhm.
our some of our shadows. It's like the poetics around that, the metaphors and the language that kind of puts a story or images that become a shared language that you can relate and understand yourself.
Yeah.
And tarot, I would say, is like human patterns of energy that always move through the world, human and universal patterns, things we
Yeah.
always have to face no matter what age or time we're in. And they're
Hmm.
reminders of what's just swirling around us all the time to get your
Yeah.
awareness back on that. I would say this system is more of an experiment that you can try that's based off of honoring the way your energy works. So it's like getting the manual for your machine and finally being
Interesting.
like, oh, okay, this is like this thing that I kind of already sensed and knew um, is correct for me, even though I might have heard that it wasn't. A really good example is in my design, I'm designed to eat food at night out of direct
Oh,
light. And if I eat food during the day, I get sleepy, my system slows down, which has always been true, but I just ate breakfast and lunch like everybody else for
it's
30
yeah,
years.
yeah,
Yeah. And when I started experimenting, so that's why it's an experiment. You try, you hear that and
yes,
you're like, okay, let me try, I'll check that out.
yeah.
And you try it. And in my case, like my energy just smoothed out a lot. And I lost a bit of weight, but I just felt really clear and good in my body. And somehow I realized I can go all day and then at night I feast. It's fine.
Right. Do you like now that you really understand this and you've been doing it for how many years? How long have you been working with human design?
3.
Do you find like what was the point at which you were like, yeah, I believe in this. Like this just makes sense. I mean, it's this download that this person received, sort of playing devil's advocate, this download that this
Go
person
for it.
received. Why
Mm-hmm.
was he special? Why does he get this download? And has it evolved since that point of download, or it really is like what he gave us, and we just take that and interpret from there?
It has evolved in the sense that different generations of people have learned it and then spread it in new ways and thought of it in new ways and given it new awarenesses and stuff. And it's actually sprung out different systems that kind of come from it that also help in different ways. So
Okay.
it's definitely been a seed, but the original information is pretty basic and or like it's you get a chart and that your chart just is your chart.
Right.
How you interpret it, how you live with it might be a bit different, but the information is kind of the same.
Okay.
Um,
So let's actually go into some things about the charts. You can use yourself as an example, but you also took my dates and times and stuff, which feel free to use openly to explain things. You talked a little bit about one example of being that you eat at a different time than you once would have thought, or would have never questioned when you need to eat. So
Yeah.
what are some other things, or maybe just start from where you would start, like telling me what I should know?
Okay, first I want to confirm that I have your right birth time because I'm noticing your sister's the hour is quite different. Were you born at similar times or very different times?
Different times. I think I gave you 10:30. Did I not?
Oh yeah, you're not actually twins.
Oh no, we're not twins. No, I'm
right,
talking about
okay.
my cousin.
Right. Okay, I'm confused.
Is an actual twin because he was born same day, same year.
Okay.
We spent like lots of our youth together,
Right.
but we're very different people. But
Right.
that makes sense that he was born I don't even know when he was born, but I know we were in the hospital at the same time. So
Okay, I'm with you. Okay.
sister's completely different.
Okay.
But we do feel like twins. That's
what she
a
told me.
strange thing.
Yeah. That's what she told me, and I took it literally. Okay, so the single most powerful thing about human design is that it gets you out of your mind as the authority for your life. So the reason that we often wind up in situations that don't feel vibrant and feel correct for us is because we make a decision based on rational thought that is coming out of a programmed mind. The mind is powerful, the mind is beautiful, but it just absorbs information for survival. So it's like,
I think people need to understand the difference there between this thing that speaks to you half the time. Thoughts come to you. You also think about the thoughts that you're thinking. But to understand, knowing that this is not your soul. This is not the spirit. This is not, there is energy obviously firing, neurons going everywhere. But I think it's important to just reiterate that like it's just there to survive, and it has memory capacity, and it's like a computer, really is what you can really think about it.
Exactly. Yes.
And yet it's not the spirit we talk about. It's not the intuition that I think you're also referencing.
Right.
And that's what we know because of so much more study of what's going on in the brain. Now we know that. Once I don't think would have been able to prove that, but I think we do now. Anyways, continue.
So we don't want to make the computer our authority, right? We don't want to give that away. We want to use it in service of our authority. But we actually have our authority coming out of different places in our body. So
Gotcha.
for me, my authority is my sacral center. So belly button a little bit lower down in there, and like where your sexual energy is.
Yeah.
So for me, I wake up with a store of energy there every day, and when it rises for something, okay, yeah, that's correct, that feels good, that's right for me. And if it doesn't rise for something, then my answer is actually wisest to be just not now. Other people, a common authority is your emotions, and those people actually need a lot of time to feel their way into things because their emotions naturally follow a wave like that. And when they're high, they'll be like, that's a great idea. And when they're low, they'll be like, I can't do that. And the truth is in the middle somewhere.
Oh, and so for them, did they need, like, they have the ability to change their emotions based on what they're going through in that moment? Like for them specifically, because emotions are a big part of how they make choices, like if they're not high, does that just mean like now's not the right time to make the choice? Like wait till, or what would you say to somebody who is an emotional authority?
If it's an important decision, ask for time, give yourself 2 days, and over those 2 days, observe how you're feeling about it. And you won't ever reach like 100% yes, I know. It's just like an 80% like, okay, this one's feeling best. It's the most sophisticated of the authorities because it's the most recent energy center to come online for our species. It's like emotional place. So
right. So you said you're sacral.
Sacral, yeah. So
there's emotional. Yeah. What others?
And just to point out something kind of interesting, you were talking about how like, oh, they can just change their emotion. Emotional beings, actually, they're the ones emitting emotion. You and me, we're picking up the emotions of others. So we can like just clear our emotions out and you know, sort of get
Right.
back to a good place. But they're
Right.
are actually emitting certain emotions, which we are picking up. The whole universe is picking up. So not everyone's the same.
Oh,
That's the
that's
beauty of
so
human design.
interesting. I think my sister referenced this a little bit when we were talking that like we all here give different things to the world around us, which is,
Yes.
sort of the order of the chaos that exists around us. And I think
Yes.
that's so beautiful to know that, I don't create the emotion, but somebody else does,
Yeah, exactly.
which is amazing. So sacral emotion,
Okay.
I'm not going to steal the thunder from you, but I know where you're going. So
Yeah.
what's
So you have a very rare authority, maybe one of the most rare of them. And so in your chart, you're open. You don't have definition. You don't emit your own energy in most of your energy centers, except for the two of the heart. So the G center and the heart are the
okay?
only two that are consistent from you, which means your authority is your heart. It is your ego. It is your will. It's what you truly just want to do. But you
Can
can't.
we pause for 1 second to just discuss ego, because this word has a lot of new meaning around it and old meaning, and how does human design define ego and the meaning of ego? Because ego to me is like also that there could be that voice in your head that's very much about only what the body wants out of protection, but that may not be how this is using the word ego.
Well, the ego wants more than just body survival. It also wants you to be successful. It wants you to be
Yes.
beloved. It wants you to be safe. It wants you to be, it wants a complex amount of things for you. The
Uh-huh.
reason that we have started to, distrust the ego is because our egos have been conditioned to be very selfish in this current society that
Gotcha.
is kind of encouraging us all to be rugged individualists and, just do whatever the fuck we want. That's pretty dangerous if all those egos are running around.
Right.
So you do have a kind of um, there's a calling here, an invitation for you to have a healthy ego because it is your authority in life. But your
Right.
authority comes from what you desire. So in human design terms, the ego is I am this and I will do this. I decide I want to do this. It is the desires of the heart. Let's think of it that way. So
Mm,
not the desires of the mind, because the mind is where a lot of fears are. The heart is not
yep.
afraid. The
No.
heart is not afraid. The heart is very courageous, plugged
Yep.
into the higher self, and it doesn't mean it's always right, but
Hmm.
it's heading it in a direction that it knows is true, and that fiery truth is taking you somewhere important.
Oh, I lost you for 1 second, or at
Mm,
the very end, but I just wanted to add to that. The mind, I believe, the only reason we fear is because we understand past and future. Like
yeah,
if we were truly in the moment, we wouldn't even really fear being chased by a bear. We would actually just, the adrenaline would course, we would run, we would do whatever we needed to survive. But truly, that version of the mind where we're in the past or we're worried about the future, I think is the only time that we create the fear. And then if we're not dealing with it, it ends up somewhere in the body. So I love
yeah.
the differentiation of
Mm-hmm.
like, ego is actually like your truest, deepest desire, like
Mm-hmm.
what you want.
Mm-hmm. And what separates you? Like you came here as a spirit, very connected to oneness, but now that you're here, our egos are the thing that keeps us, okay, separate. I am this, I'm not that, I'm not my sister, I'm me, I have my
Yep.
own path. And
Yep.
so it's that kind of torch inside you that's leading you to where only you need to go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that mine is quite unique because I mean, I assume there's lots of people that have the heart, but it's ego something else. There was something else in there.
Okay, so you're called ego projected. So
Projected.
other people have their heart connected to their throat, and they're called manifestors. They're a different energetic type altogether because they
Yeah.
are kind of like Donald Trump, J.K. Rowling. They're people who just announce what is, and it is true for them, and the people who are impacted by them. The
Mm.
way Trump can just like name reality, and it's like that's not even true, but it
Yeah,
becomes true for whoever is kind of following and impacted by that.
absolutely.
So
So
you,
these words of projector, there's other words that my sister has used. That's another really important human design terminology, correct?
yes, exactly. So your type is projector. So it's a different energetic type. Whereas the manifester decides, gets an urge, and just does what they want to do, you actually need to be invited to share your energy with others. It's more correct for you to get invited. And you'll notice that when you insert yourself before you've been energetically invited to share, even though what you had to share was quite wise because you see things very clearly and you really understand the way energy moves through the world and you have brilliance about you in certain areas. But if it's basically, a projector is a penetrator. So you're able to really penetrate the energy of other people. But just like sex, just like it requires consent. So the invitation is consent. So when someone consents to invite you into their field, to see them so clearly and penetrate them and know them and share with them, then the energy is correct and you can make big impact and you're somebody who really impacts people.
Right.
Before you've been invited, it goes over our heads. Like it's not quite, we're not there yet.
So what are you? You said sacral is where you make choices.
Yeah. So if you have your sacral center defined, which is 70% of the population, most people are like this. You're either a generator or a manifesting generator.
Gotcha.
So generators have their sacral and maybe some other things defined, but not their throat. Manifesting generators have their sacral and their throat, and it's connected, or there's some connection through there. So so generators are juicy life force people who are like when we get excited about something, like we light up the room, like that's our energy. We really love that thing. But when we're not excited, it's kind of, the energy stays like this. For me, if I'm excited and responding to something from that place, I can then manifest my own little mini worlds.
Okay.
And so, like on my Instagram, for example, I do this little magazine called Soft Gaze.
Which,
that's like one of those.
My God, people, get it together and read them all. That alone was just like what I needed to talk to you about, which is a total sidebar, but it's just genius. And it's so clearly, now that you're describing, has come from like the juice that you produce.
Exactly. Right.
It's just not trying to be sexual, but people can take it that way.
Yeah. That was born out of a moment of frustration with all my other work. And I was like, well, what do I want to do? And then it all came to me. And so when it comes from that place of like responding to life, to what's happening, to the true energy rising, for me, then I can manifest these little worlds that exist, that people can live inside for a moment and respond to and live inside. So your type is very different. So if the generators are here, just do what they love and follow their joy, you're actually here to see things clearly, guide people, advise people, and lead, but not in the like rah kind of lead, but in the, I'm like the bird up on the tree. I see this clearly. So all you guys running around down there, like, I'll just say some things about that. So you use your energy more efficiently. So you have this like sight and this wisdom. And specifically your incarnation cross. So now we're getting very specific. Yeah. Your incarnation cross, so the energy that you came here to bring over your whole life, like that you cannot escape this theme, is called the vessel of love. Oh. And it's so like looking at your Instagram presence and what you bring, what you do, that's you. It's like, it doesn't mean that you love everyone, but everywhere you go, everything you do, you carry the frequency of love. And you bring that frequency to people, so it makes everything.
Chills.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Chills, and I love that it like just sort of, it feels like a confirmation of something I didn't even know I needed confirmed. But as I look back, the way you just described me, I see my Instagram as very much just an extension of me. I've always seen it as a scrapbook of my life. Like, I couldn't believe when Instagram came on the scene, because I was like, this is a virtual scrapbook. I made scrapbooks as a kid and I love that, but this is like a daily thing. So that makes sense.
Yeah. So you're here, like you're guided by what you love and what you want, who you know you are and what you desire. These are the consistent energies inside you. That's why you love a scrapbook, because you're like, me, this is me. I got this. Yes. That's you over life, even though you're learning how to communicate. You're learning what thoughts are useful for you, what inspiration actually you want to follow, the wisdom of emotions, when you have energy, when you don't have energy, how to trust your intuitive voice when it comes and when it doesn't, the rhythms of your body. These are all things that you don't have consistent inside you. So the consistent part is the part that you are natural at, and the other part's the part you're getting wise at. So you're sharing all this wisdom from your identity, from this like vessel of love identity. That's like, you're learning, you're seeing, you're comparing, you're understanding, and then you're sharing.
Gotcha.
So the more that you share based on people inviting you to share on those topics, the more clear it'll ring. And
Right.
an invitation doesn't have to be like, a letter in the mail. It can be, you've had a few comments on your post that are like, can you say more about this? Great, you've been invited now,
Yeah, quite clear that somebody wants to know more.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about like that moment when you want to make a choice about something.
Okay.
Recently, I have started doing a bit of dowsing, which I had never, pendulum
Oh
swinging
yeah.
with crystals,
Yeah, cool.
as just like a different way to read the energy that I'm emitting, and I use this one right here. It's very easy. You can Google how to do it if you want to, and I mean, it's crazy to me how even accurate that can be, or even that it tells you something. But my sister talking about how she like, I think is also in her sacral and is a generator, I think.
Yeah.
And so like she just knows, like it's like this thing that you talked about the emotional people need a little more time.
Yeah.
What about when I want to make choices, the people that are making choices from their heart, what is, how do you tune into that? Like, because this gets in the way.
It does. Yeah. I would say one way, okay, so you don't have consistent access to the throat, which is where we manifest. But that doesn't
Oh,
mean that you don't have throat energy. It would just be
right.
coming out in different ways at different times.
Gotcha.
So with the way the chart works, the way our energy works is as the sun moves into different places in the sky,
Yeah.
also the moon, also the earth, it actually brings about new energy. So the sun itself can give you the energy where suddenly you're thinking, I can express a lot today. I'm connected to what I know.
Yeah.
So one way to know your authority, you in particular, is to create from that knowing, from the heart. Is like, or even if you just you have like a lot in your brain, you can just mind dump and then notice when you get to the this is who I am. You can't
Yeah.
deny this truth. Like I said,
Yes.
the heart can't lie, right? The heart
Yeah.
just speaks its truth, loud or quiet, and it sounds like the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So dance, sing, paint, write,
Yeah.
speak out anything you can, and notice the quality of what you're saying. And once you get to that, what sounds the truest for you, that's your authority. That's how
Right.
you make the decision. But in a way, you're one of the few people who can just, if you get really connected to your heart, like just send your awareness down there
Yeah.
and kind of trust the beauty of your desires, like trust
Mm.
yourself to like what you want, where you want to go, who you want to
Yeah.
be, how you want to
Yeah.
show up, what you love, what matters to you, what you die for, these kinds of things. These
Yeah.
elements are going to be what guides your best wisdom forward.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's the second component to mine specifically that makes it quite unique, right? So I'm an ego projector. Is that how you describe it?
An ego projected projector. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
What differentiates that
So there's a
aspect of
lot
it?
of there's a lot of different projectors. A projector is somebody who doesn't have the sacral and doesn't have a motor attached to the throat, which would make them a manifestor. Manifestors are
Right.
quite rare, 8%.
Right.
20% of people are projectors of different kinds. So you're all beings who taste and experience the life force energy of other people. So
Mm-hmm.
even connecting with me right now, you can even feel in your body when I get excited about something, it gets amped up.
1000%.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
you know that about life. You know when you see energy and when you don't, and when you see it
Yeah.
being used in a vibrant way and when you see it being used in a, conditioned kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
So you're all these projectors are very wise about the way energy moves around
Yep.
the world. And so you see and you understand that's what makes you all the same, is that you're these seers, you penetrate, you see right into people, and your energy works best when you're invited. Otherwise, projectors start to feel bitterness because they got so much to share, but when they're not invited or when they're sharing before they're invited, they can't get it out, or it's not being received, and that's so frustrating.
Right. And that,
Bitterness.
this just all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but is there a differentiation even further from myself
So then,
specifically?
so then yours is just very rare because you only have these two centers to find, just your heart and just your G center. So those are the only parts of you. So other projectors, they might, have their spleen, like their
Mm-hmm.
intuition as
Right.
their quiet voice of their wisdom.
Yeah.
But you don't have consistent access to that. So
What does this mean for me then specifically? Like that I have openness everywhere else? Does it mean I need to like like in terms of even related to like earth, wind, fire, water, like I don't have a lot of, I think, air in my chart. And so like looking for ways to bring more air into my life. Is that relatable to human design? Like because I have only this as the consistent and everything else is open. What does that mean for me?
It means that you want to get you want to stop identifying with any of the other centers. So you do not want to identify with your emotions. You get wise about your emotions. They give you information, but they're not you. You don't have to tie yourself to them. They're
Okay.
wild, actually. They can, because wherever you're open, wherever you're not defined, you don't just take in information. You take it in and amplify it. So you are you are a receiver and a amplifier of that energy.
Okay.
Whereas they're the emitter of their own brand of that energy.
Right.
So you've got to get, practices and ways of clearing out the crown and the mind, like really clearing that out, recognizing that like sometimes you have your words and sometimes you don't, and that's okay.
Right.
Not using up too much of your energy every day so that you're doing too much and burning yourself out, because it's not yours. You're actually riding the energy of other people.
Interesting. It's so interesting you say that, because I growing up gay, closeted for so many years, like motivation to be good at everything was well, sorry, that was the motivation to be good at everything, so that nobody knew I was gay.
Same.
And I think it felt like I was generating a lot myself in those moments when I look back, but what now I understand was likely happening was I was riding the emotion of everybody's reaction to my success or being good at something, and so I think I was just riding those waves as long as I could. And now in my life, obviously I'm openly gay and don't need that, but it's interesting to consider that I can do less. So I always have been a person that has done a lot, trying really hard and making it happen. But even this year with the pandemic, like truly one of the biggest lessons that keeps appearing, or like I keep running into, is that like you need to still do less, like, which just feels so counterintuitive to me, because I grew up on a farm where you have to work hard to get it done.
No, projector on a farm, that's a really bad combination, because like farm work is like get up every day and use your body's energy. Yeah.
Yes.
So more about being a projector, you are not meant to work 8-hour days. You're not meant to grind. You're not meant for that. You're meant to be an advisor. You're meant to do a lot in a short amount of time, like bring a lot of wisdom, see very clearly, solve the problem, get down to it, and then get out. Right. So you're not,
which I feel like is what the pandemic, like, not that pandemic specifically, but this moment in time, it was undeniable that I haven't built a whole entire new system that is like, you do this and then you do this and then you do this and then you do this. My days are like the most free they've ever been in my entire life. And I have been thinking about like, okay, like, why am I not getting more students? Why am I not, like, there's things that I thought would happen, and this is bringing some new insight to me as to why it's not happening, potentially.
If you want more success as a projector, take time to recognize where you're brilliant, where you have something to share, where you can guide others' energy. And like once you see that clearly and live from that place, and not expect the world to prove it to you, but just know it yourself and notice it yourself and reinforce it yourself, and then share when you feel like sharing from that place where you're like, I know I have this wise thing to say. So you're kind of demonstrating your knowledge from that place. Then people will start to invite you, and then you get the invitations for what you want. They have to see you. They have to recognize you. So you have to recognize you first. Otherwise, you won't be recognized for these things.
Right.
There's also something else about you that I think is interesting.
Okay.
Your consciousness is very receptive. So your mind and body, your whole awareness is very much a sponge rather than a syringe. So you absorb a lot about your environment, about what people are saying to you. But that also means you don't have a strategic brain. You don't have the kind of brain that's like, I want to do this and I'm going to decide it's going to go this way and it's going to happen like that. It's not your strength. and it's kind of why you are getting more energy maybe from interviews than you are just from talking, because
Right.
if people can pull something out of you, ask you a question, and draw from your well, you have a lot to offer. You just don't always know necessarily where to go in and get it. It kind of has to be taken from you. So you have
Which,
so much wisdom, but people need to get into your energy and ask you for it.
right, and I need that invitation, and then when when the dialogue has begun, then it's a spring that just
Yes.
bursts forth, which is
Yeah.
truly, I mean, even just the journey of discovering that I like to interview people was something that I never would have seen in my path as an actor model, that eventually found this thing through YouTube. And truly, like, you know, it sounds obvious to say that Oprah is my is my girl, but it's truly because she gets to do a lot of the things that I feel called to be a part of in this existence, in this life. What's Oprah? I'm so curious. Do you know?
I do know. I think she's a generator.
Okay.
So a very common type. You know how she gets like so excited about something and her energy is like that? Like she's got that life force energy. But
Yeah.
a generator is on a very linear path. So they love what they love and they go deeper and deeper, further and further on it. They don't necessarily do a bunch of different things. Oprah actually does do many things, but they're all about sharing stories that matter.
Yeah.
It's always that. So
100%.
And just like you, she has an undefined throat, which means she doesn't have her own consistent voice. And she often speaks with the voice of her audience, of her people, because,
Totally.
they're all tuned in. She's speaking for them. She's asking questions for them. That's you too.
Yeah.
You're
Sharing
very open
those
here.
great. So is there something to be aware of for myself in connection to the other authority places? Like you're saying, my throat isn't defined, but there is, it doesn't mean I won't use my throat.
Right?
The heart is completely, the heart in the G something?
The G center.
G center, which is
Yeah.
what that there as well. It's just another name for it, or is it right beside it, or?
The G center is like this place right here that it takes you, it gives you direction. It's like where you're going. It's like, it's sort of like well, some people have it defined, like you and I, and we don't always know what's up in life, but we know where we're going. We know where we're coming from.
Yeah.
Other people, that direction is being influenced by people like us, and that's always changing, like a ship blowing around in the wind a little bit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Like my heart chakra in this moment is like spinning.
You feel recognized. Your projector is being recognized for exactly who you are, where your brilliance is, and that's like,
Yeah, it's quite like it's undeniable in this moment how much I can feel this G spot or chakra moving and grooving.
So one thing I can tell you about your chart, this is going deeper again, but your motivation in life is need. So you're correctly motivated to fulfill the needs of the situation, the moment, the people around you. And that's different than everyone else. Like, for instance, my motivation is called innocence. I'm just motivated to just be myself and do what I love. Okay. You are the vessel of love, but it's like you're bringing that love where it's needed. Where is it needed? What do we need right now? What is needed in this moment? What's necessary? But every motivation comes with a transfer motivation, and it works as a binary system. And when we're in our transfer motivation, our energy feels a bit like tight, a little bit like it doesn't quite work as well. And it's just a reminder to us to get back into our correct motivation. Gotcha. Your transfer motivation is called fear. And that's that energy in you that wants to like fix all the details, like get what's needed. Like you need to get everything done, like money, and who's going to pay for this, and So if you catch yourself in that kind of more frantic-y place of like getting down to the security of something, down to the bottom, that's correct for some people, not for you, and you know that in your feeling. But when you're just like
distraction for me, I clean, I tidy things. Yes. I want to know all, like if something's not working efficiently, I'm like, hello, let's find out how to do this efficiently, because that would make more sense.
Right. And so if you can take that and go, okay, what's necessary here? What's necessary to make this more efficient? Rather than I'm going to be the mechanic who gets down and fixes all the little things that make it more efficient. You're tempted to do that. You can catch yourself there, bring yourself back to the most essential. What's necessary?
What is necessary? So I'm here to fulfill the need rather than, in your case, your innocence. What would be my sister, for example, is, do you know,
I just have to look it up. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very interesting part of the chart to know about people, because when you know how someone's motivated, you really understand them a lot
Well,
better.
yeah, like as I was just even saying about the motivation to be good at stuff was to hide my sexuality, and even now in my life, the motivation to get out of bed in the morning. I mean, that truly. I was just on a little vacation somewhere warmer, which was just like that blew my mind in itself. Um, but I noticed that it was a lot easier to get up in the morning because I wanted to go enjoy the sunrise and then this view. And I've noticed during this pandemic that the motivation to get out of bed in the morning, I don't know what the motivation is. And so that word is so important. It's what
Yes.
drives us
Yes.
to do something.
So ask yourself, what's needed today? What needs, where am I needed? That's where your energy belongs. So your sister is the reverse of you. Her correct motivation is that fear, is actually sorting out the details, getting down to what would make things more secure right now for us. You know, would make everything, sorry, I'm just adjusting my phone, would make everything feel more stable, like filling in the details, filling the blanks, figuring out the money, doing all that. And her transfer motivation is need. So you guys complement each other quite well.
Interesting. But that also makes sense in terms of how we often feel like we do complement. We're like literally the opposite and the same at the same time. Very much a yin and yang in so many different ways, because you'd never know we were siblings at times based on our energy. But when we're together, it's like,
it's a unit.
It's a unit completely. Yeah.
Cool.
There's so much, I feel like there's so much to discuss, but what else comes to mind as you know that people watching right now are going to watch later know nothing about this? Like, this is quite new.
Yeah. Human design helps you ease into who you are, the feeling and the operation of who you are. And out of that feeling, which is truly comes from conditioning, which says that there's something wrong with you, there's something not right about you. Once you understand how your energy works and you honor your energy, life starts to feel like it honors you more.
Yeah.
And you start to have more respect for the way you operate, and less just that confusion of why am I, stuffing my face past 8 p.m. when Oprah said never eat past 8 p.m. She said the rule. It makes you because those things cause a lot of fracture inside of us when we're doing something or we're drawn to do something that others aren't. Like, for example, being vessel of love. It's very easy for someone to look at that, or you even to question it and be like, why am I always bringing this such loving energy? Is it making me vulnerable? Whatever. It's like, no, that's you. You came here to do that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Does everybody have in their chart these details as specific as not eating food past 8 p.m. for you specifically, or that you should only eat later? And I mean, you don't have to go into the details of it, but how has this changed your entire being over 3 years? And is there anything that surprised you, or was there moments of doubt along the way that you're like, well, I don't know if that actually works for me? Because I think sometimes we question even a tarot reading, or we question whether that card was really for us, or whether that reading was really for us. So what's been your journey?
My journey was, is this true? I don't know. This seems a little hard or limiting, or because for a generator, you've got to wait to respond. You're not meant to initiate. You're meant to respond to life. And that feels a bit disempowering at first.
Yeah.
But then you realize, no, it's relaxing. Everything comes to me. If I trust, things get magnetized towards me, and I respond to what I like and what I don't. It's hard because you have to face the fear of the mind that says, you need to do this. This is how you were raised. This is what society said. Really? You can't just wait for things to come to you. You got to go make it happen. Yeah. So there's a lot of fear that you face, but there was probably a moment recently where I started realizing how my sacral responses were leading me down a pathway that I would never have opened by just sitting in a room, which, let me tell you, I've done for a long time. Sitting in a room thinking, how am I going to get my life together? What am I going to do?
Because that's still so much up here. And I think this is where there's a differentiation even between go and meditate on it. Because I think still people think that all of it's either in here, or it's coming from the source, and you that intuition is outside of you somewhere. But human design is actually clearly stating how much it's just coming from a different place that you weren't even listening to. So
Right.
sitting and doing nothing wouldn't have brought you there.
Right. We are walking portals of life energy to come out. Human design gives us the map to understand, okay, where is the energy coming out? What do I make a relationship with here? What part of my body, what sensations do I meditate with, reach into, have a deep love for and respect for, that are guiding me correctly? And when you hear it, like even you talking about your heart whirling right now, like you hear it and it feels true.
Yeah.
Like, and it is an experiment. It's not meant to be dogmatic. Nothing about this is like, do this or die. It's try this and see. Try it yourself and see if you changing what you do to honor your design, if that helps your life. For example,
my sister, quickly before you go any further, my sister talked about how there was something in her chart that was about what she would have called as a child her stubbornness. And it's so interesting to see her take that power back and own that attitude or attribute or behavior in a positive or an empowering way now, because it at one point would have been called stubbornness, but now it was just, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but something about boundary, like she just knows.
Yeah, she's here to challenge a lot of the things that don't work based on what she knows for herself are not working. And that often comes off as like, why are you being so stubborn? Why aren't you going along with this? And there's a good reason for that. Just like you're the vessel of love, she's designed to like point out the observations she's made about a lot of the things that don't work so that we can change them.
Which is also just another example of how beautifully we are all the same and different, and that we are all a part of the order and the chaos, as we talked about before, that like truly we're all here to do different things, but we all are working together to do those things, and that the universal life force knew those things. Like we attracted that into the portal because that's what the world needed in this moment.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so empowering too.
It is. It's like giving you the key to be your own special little source of life here, and not trying to make your shape fit the shape they told us we were supposed to be.
Which is different too than like just this individualistic society that has also been created out of definitely a need to like not always relate to the whole, but know yourself enough to then relate to the whole. But I think there's a line that it's like we turn in to say what I want, but a lot of people are still not turning back out then afterwards to incorporate that into the whole, and it becomes a very like, I don't know, how do you describe it? It's very self-centered, but not self-centered. It's not self-centered in a way that like doesn't acknowledge what's around them or how they relate to what's around them.
Right. I mean, the whole point of human design is to get this knowledge about yourself so you can share yourself with others. Like, it's very relational.
Yes.
It's how to bring this out in a way that others can receive and can flow with and can work with. It's not just like know yourself so you can sit in a room and be happy, which wouldn't work.
The happiness is always in relation to the world around you.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is amazing. We were going somewhere else.
Well, I did want to give you a little like piece of information about the specifics of your chart.
Yes.
So your determination, so the way you digest food and life best is in low sound. So so when you're eating, it's better for you. It's better for your digestive system to eat in quiet or with one single like low sound going on, like either low conversation or low music, maybe not both. You don't want a lot of volume coming at you while you're trying to digest.
Okay. That is interesting to know, like, as you're saying, just test out, like experiment with, because there are times when I don't quite understand why my digestion is funky, and it's not something that lasts probably even more than a day, and it's not even a specific food that I think would like make me uncomfortable in my digestion. But now knowing this, I'm so curious to just compare that and see, okay, what was I doing when I was eating that would have some play. But time of day doesn't
matter for you.
Doesn't matter for me.
Peace and quiet.
Peace and quiet. My sister also mentioned something about before I go to bed, like that needing to take time to be really quiet at the end of the day.
You need to clear out that, especially the life force energy center, the sacral center, because
Okay.
if you've got residual energy from the people you met or engaged with, it'll be firing at night and it needs somewhere to go. So for you to
Right.
give yourself a ritual, like where you can expel the energy first and like,
Gotcha.
like either have a bath, have a shower, do
Yeah.
yoga,
Yeah.
meditate
But
and
in
visualize it.
but intentionally thinking, like, I do have a shower most nights before I go to bed, but to be thinking about that during the shower, see the shower as a way to expel whatever energy is left from the day, makes a huge difference.
Hmm. Exactly. If you add your intention of, okay, there's this here right now, I can feel, because when you tune in, you can feel it.
Yeah.
Like, got a lot of energy down there. Okay, how can I release this before I go to bed? Even masturbation can help you
Yeah.
in that way. And then you're intentional about it. It's like, okay, I'm clearing this energy center. Now I can
Which,
rest.
girl,
Yeah.
that also makes so much sense for me specifically.
Yeah.
Not to get too into the details of it for all y'all out there, but that is an interesting thing. Is it common? I mean, you've said that my chart is quite uncommon, but
Yeah.
like within the gay community, like mostly masturbating to porn before you go to bed is something that it can become an addiction for people.
Yeah.
That's what you need to do. But how do you relate to even that conversation?
Well, a lot of us have either other people's energy that we need to get out, or like people like me, manifesting generators, we have a lot of sacral energy, like just tons
Mm-hmm.
and tons and tons, and it wants to move really fast. So
Yeah.
for us, sex before bed is good as well, kind of just in a different way.
Yeah.
So there's many of us out there who have a lot of juice we got to get rid of at the end of the day. And if we have
Right.
a tried, tested, and true way of doing that, then.
Yeah.
Mhm. But I will say, like, just on the topic of porn and all that sort of stuff, like, our sexuality is so sacred and no one talks about that. No one ever
Yeah.
takes up space to talk about that. And it's taken me up until like very recently to stop like masturbating in a way that was kind of just like porn release,
Yes.
and to transition it into um, time for me and my
Yeah.
body to create something very beautiful together,
Yeah.
and to like restore my nervous system. And there's so much to it. So just while we're on that topic, like,
Oh,
let's
I
just say,
love
like,
that. I think there's so much to discuss there about truly where it stems for me is that, watching gay porn was so bad, like the worst thing I could possibly do. And even though in the moment when I was like 12 and doing it, like the moment of doing it, you're feeling good because you know that's what you really deeply want to experience.
yeah,
But the moment that you finish is like immediately shame and guilt are just like whoosh, this
yeah,
brick that basically kill you. And I
yeah,
think now I recognize, and so much of like anything that's going on down there for people, I don't know if you're familiar with Louise Hay's book, Heal Your Body,
yeah,
and just understanding that like so much of issue, STIs, all those things are stemming from shame and guilt about
yes,
that area of our
yeah,
body.
exactly.
And so porn and masturbation, I think, are just another example of ways that, like, for me, myself, I've had to work through this, like, can I know I have the ability to choose a different thought after I would engage in it that way, and
Yeah,
also understand that there are so many ways that I could explore the release in that way that don't necessarily include porn, but that it's not bad,
no,
and I should feel shame and guilt if I do
no,
choose that.
no. I think one thing about shame that we don't talk about very often enough, but is cool to hear when you hear it, is that it's a survival mechanism for our childhood, so that we have a mechanism inside that shuts down bad behavior so we don't risk getting kicked out or
Right.
beat up by our parents. Like,
Totally.
for a very long time, human beings as children came into violent homes, or
Yeah.
the risk of violence was there, or the risk of not being fed, or it was a brutal world until quite
Totally.
recently. And even now, like, your social security is sort of tied to obeying your parents and kind of living by the way they live. So
Yeah.
if what you're doing, somewhere inside, goes against what you've been taught and is safe and you're supposed to do to your parents, shame comes in as a helpful friend to shut down the operation and say,
Right.
oh, no, 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 we can't do that. We have to make you feel really bad about that so you don't do that again, because it's not safe, buddy. It's not safe.
Right.
And so it's you having a conversation with that part of yourself to say, okay, I hear you, Shame. I feel you. I'm present with you. I receive your message, and now I have a message back for you. And it's training the really neural pathways in the brain. So that's like, okay, we're gonna rewire this one because this
Yeah.
is not helping. Now we live in our own beautiful apartment. We can
Yeah.
jerk off anytime we want. We can watch any kind of porn we want, and it's actually
Yes.
really good for the body.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I think there's another level of the conversation too about porn specifically, that does it create expectation around the actual physical experience when it truly happens. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's something to dive into there about how, yeah, I think there are times when if it's the only way you masturbate, then you could potentially end up, when you have a real life experience, um, all your expectation is based on these videos that you watch, which I guess you could apply that to anything. Movies.
Yeah.
If you only live your life through watching these movies, then in real life you're gonna feel it's gonna be jarring because real life isn't like in the movies.
Yeah. I mean, it's like everything else. It's a relationship. You have a relationship to those body parts, and you have a relationship to masturbation in general.
Right.
So if that relationship um, sort of you require porn, or you're always using porn in that relationship, it's just like
Yeah.
anything else. It's like, look at that
Yeah.
for whatever it is and see, like, is that the healthiest relationship, or where does that relationship feel good, where could it feel better? And just like anything
Yes.
else, like more focused attention, more really seeing what you're doing,
Hmm.
just naturally makes change happen, because you're like, oh right, like masturbation is a kind of fun body technology that
Yeah.
I can take advantage of for health.
Yeah.
And if I'm less in like here up here watching the screen, like and more in the body as the energy is flowing around, what does that
Yes.
bring me? What gift does
Yes.
that give?
And then to bring back human design into this conversation, using the wherever you're making choices from to help you make those choices in those moments about, do I really want to do this, or want to do it do I want to do it in a different way today, or what does my heart feel about, for me specifically,
For you?
about this? Yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a great tool.
Okay.
That's the most important one, is get your authority, your strategy, and your authority. So you're a projector, your strategy is wait for the invitation, and
Yeah.
your authority, because you don't just take every invitation, your authority
Right.
is, what does my heart say?
What does my heart say?
Hmm.
Yeah. So that is, I mean, it sounds like that is the basics of human design, and that if you were to get a full-on reading, like you're working with my sister, for example,
Hmm.
you really get to dive into all the crevices of what does look like a pretty intense chart when you look at a human design chart for the first time. It feels like, I don't know, what does that mean?
Yeah, it goes on and on and on to like really cool places. Like we each come programmed with our own godheads, which is like a whole, like basically a god that you believe in your mind, but we believe in different ones and don't realize it. Like part of
Mm,
my system is to believe in the God of Vishnu, who always must try his best and be the most spiritual. We're not going to reincarnate. We're going to live like good boys and girls here on this planet because you must, because Vishnu says.
right.
When I can see that in my chart, I can realize, oh, that's a part of my programming. It's part of what
Uh,
guides me and leads me, but it's not my authority. It's not my wisest truth. It's me being susceptible to like human energies that have existed for a long time that kind of believe these principles,
okay.
right? These principles of what's best or how to act.
Yep.
So it can point to very cool things like shadows inside you, and
Mm,
like it gives you how you the role you play with other people, the way
yeah.
people may project upon you. It gives you a lot.
Was this all truly like the download that this person received, and you as an interpreter of this information now, um, go to a source that provides all this information for you, or are you like using your own interpretation to help, somebody understand even that kind of detail for yourself, like that
Yeah,
you're run by this, or you are aware that there is this thing that can happen that is not my authority, but I,
yeah.
I know I lean in that direction because of programming.
Yeah, exactly. Um, well, I learned a lot of this from real life. So,
Mhm.
doing people's charts, recognizing the energy, I would learn and I would hear something about a projector, let's say, and then I would try to say it with my projector friends, and I would find out what lands, what doesn't, that sort of
Yep.
thing. So it's definitely all coming from, this is the information, but any information can be interpreted so many ways.
Yep.
So the way I engage with it is, what is the most useful, freeing, liberating information that people need to know? The information that like gives them respect for themselves, respect for other people, dignity in their energy, and just makes you feel empowered. So I take the technical information and I bring that kind of like enthusiasm to it, so that you can just take away the pieces of your chart that make you feel more free.
Yeah, and similar, I find that that's similar to even what my roommate Nikki does with a tarot reading, is she'll see like a spread and then weave a sentence that sounds like poetry, because it truly is, that will be the best way for that person to move forward next, whatever's the next thing to do. And it sounds like you also provide the same resource for people that are interested.
Yeah, so the way my work is it's called a human design communion. So we get together and we really open up deep sacred space. And either they're a total newbie and they're just like, can you tell me what I need to know? Kind of like you've done here. Or they actually have studied themselves, you know, like Rochelle, she knew a lot about her chart already. So we were able to like, okay, let's commune deeper and go deeper and take you like further into the information. How does it integrate? How does it, how can we think of it in different ways? How can we expand this definition so that it is more empowering? That sort of
how to experiment with it. So you actually, for yourself, like, you know, as I said before, just a little example of like how eating, like just testing that out, exploring what that really means for me to then be able to speak on it, even just to myself, but also to others as I experience it.
Yeah. It just gives you more for your awareness to pay attention to. So then you start to see, oh, right, I don't have to just do this thing because everyone eats 3 meals a day. I can actually live in a way that suits my energy more. And you notice, oh, this does this to me. This, that doesn't feel so good.
Yeah. And it just, again, speaks to like how there are certain things that you do that you don't understand why you do, but you do feel the almost, it's like you have to do it. And yet some of those things end up being things that people, the society around us is saying isn't positive, or you shouldn't do as much as that. And when in fact, it was your body's own wisdom, you know, doing its thing. And it's empowering to me, because all of a sudden you don't have to feel bad. Like all of a sudden you've been like given permission to not feel so bad about that thing that you were trying to change because you thought society needed you to be a different way in order to be a contributing member of society, you know, like.
Yeah. It's a total paradigm shift, and it's part of decolonizing, because, you know, like colonized thought is like, these are our systems, these are the ways we need you to work, so get yourself into shape to fit into one of these slots so you can make money and keep the machine going. This is about completely flipping that around and trusting the body as a divine vehicle for our lives here, that we were actually given everything we needed in our bodies to navigate life. We've just been, the mind has been taken over to focus on these external things that we thought we had to do to be successful. And it's not working. We know it's not working. Our life feels successful when our life feels good in our body. That's it.
I mean, Abraham said it for decades now. I don't know if you know who Abraham is, but the Jerry and Esther Hicks, Abraham, the whole just feel good is the most important thing. It always has been, always will be. I want to end with just a little bit about, how do you think the spiritual transformational world is accepting human design as part of the language we're starting to use? Like, you know, do you think Deepak, you know, is into the human design, or even somebody like Oprah? Like, are these bigger names that we think of a part of what human design is offering, or how is it being received right now?
No, I wouldn't say those names, because those names all come from, I would say, certain generations, like the Boomer and Gen X generations. They're kind of the luminaries right now in spirituality. But to me, it's millennials who have really like taken this on and are bringing it to life in new ways. And in that realm of spirituality, it is spirituality. Like it's, you can't be into it and not have like some kind of like relationship to human design, a little bit like how astrology used to be. Like, you might not fully buy into astrology, but if you were spiritual, you would know your sun sign and you would have something to say about it. Yeah,
exactly.
It's becoming like that, and it's so like spirituality has always been about how do we live here, right? How do we live on this place? And human design gives us such an easy way to do that more gracefully.
Yeah. And that to me is why it's no question or no doubt why this person received this thing that was a manual, because humanity got lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
And there are
Jesus tried. It didn't pan out the way they thought it might.
Well, you know what? I would say that Jesus did everything, of course, right?
Yeah.
And still holds a field of love, but we needed more. You know what I mean? So it's like we need Jesus, we need Buddhism, we needed, you know, Hindus to tell us that reincarnation is a real thing. We need to consider that, you know, like we need it at all. We need the whole soup. We need every single person, every single piece together. Human design is for those of us who love to like understand energy and how it works and to like live with it instead of kind of fighting against it.
And I love that there's those levels, that you can be somebody who loves human design to understand the big and the micro and all the things about yourself and others. But it also is this manual guide, as you would provide for somebody, to just apply some things that are going to help them.
Yes.
No matter what. They don't have to be all like, oh my God, I need to know everything. But there are certain things that could be given to them, presented to them, that would really help them live a more authentic, a feel-good experience while they're here.
Yeah, we're here to play a role. And if you can see how that role comes out through your natural body, then you stop maybe berating yourself for the ways in which that role doesn't look like the way you thought your life would look, or doesn't look like lives look in the movies, or doesn't look like the way your mom and dad taught you life should look, but instead comes out of your design and is, even though it challenges people, or even though it confuses people, or even though it's different than other people, it in fact is divine.
And I imagine this must be also a powerful tool for like relationships that already exist in your life. A partner, parents, siblings, grandparents. Like that to me is fascinating when you start not comparing, but like lining up to human designs and seeing, you know, how they relate to each other. Do you do any like couple sessions? Like, do couples come to you, or is that not really a thing yet? But that would be cool.
It is a thing. I do it. Sometimes I'll do one reading for one and one for the other, and then one for the both of them. But I do couples readings because it's really good to know how the energy interacts together. Including the way in which, when your energy is combined, what third being you make together, because your energy centers are all now interacting with each other. That's why you and Rochelle, she has a lot of definition in her. So when you're with your sister, you become this kind of familiar being that you know in her energy that you don't always have access to without. And you guys can sort of rely on that when you come together.
And that makes sense then too, that I do often take on whatever is around me, which speaks to my Pisces nature as well. But this even it just defines it even further, that truly, because everything is open besides my heart. That would make sense.
And it's quite nuanced, because you take on so much of other people, but you never lose who you are. Your identity and your direction stays the same. What you love, the things you love about life, the things you love about yourself, they don't change. But you do take on the qualities, feelings, experiences, wisdom, conditioning of other people. And you're like, whoa, that's your energy. Okay, now I'm learning. Now I'm affected. Now I'm changed, you know?
And then how do I don't know if I would call it course correct, but like, I notice that that's not me, that's somebody else. And in my life, I can tell at different points in my life, there have been times when I did lose a sense of who I was, because I was trying to be like that other person, or be more like them, because sometimes I admired them.
And then you go back to the heart. What does the heart say about this?
Right.
What does the heart truly believe? Because the heart doesn't want anything than what it wants. The heart does really just want what it wants. And the more you especially touch in with that, you'll know what's true for you, even though you're trying on this little thing, trying to.
Of course. Seriously, Braden, this has been such a delight.
Yeah, it really
I
has.
just truly, I'm giving you an emotional and virtual hug in
I
this
feel
moment.
it. I feel it, Pisces.
I really want people to know where they can go get a reading, where they could go learn more about this through you, or just even through their own research, and then come to you when they are ready for a reading. What are you spoke a little bit about it at the beginning, but what are you offering the world right now with your platform?
Yeah, so with my platform, I'm offering human design communions, no matter what your level is at. Just come to me. I'll get your information. I'll plug in your chart, and we'll have a chat a little bit similar to this, where we're like, you're asking questions, I'm giving answers, taking you deeper, revealing things, and just giving you more of a feeling of, oh, wow, in your body.
Right.
And I also use human design for that spiritual allyship that I was talking about. So if you're already interested in human design, or even people who aren't, it's very useful to know. For instance, if you didn't care about human design, I would want to know that you were the vessel of love before I guided you spiritually, so that I could help you step into that. And that might be language that you're, and when you hear that, you're like, okay, well, that it becomes part of how we heal the past, get clarity in the present, or envision a brand new future, is knowing some things about where you're at, what motivates you, how you work, that sort of thing.
That sounds a little more like life coaching or guidance or accountability in a way, as opposed to specifically human design communion.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
You offer both, but you
Let's
use
apply it to your life.
Yeah. Amazing. And all of this, I'm assuming, is linked in your bio when people watch this video. They can go over and find you.
Exactly.
Anything else? Anything you want to end on before we leave this beautiful space?
I would just like to say that we're in a time of such great fear coming up in so many different places, because we are called to evolve. We're called to change as a species. As human beings, we're called to change. And that now means conscious evolution. We decide how we're going to change. And we're forced to look at, the way healthcare fails us, the way our families have hurt us, the way our bodies carry trauma and the DNA that's coming up right now to be felt and cleared. Our relationships, we're seeing what's not working in there. And so it's a hard time. So anyone who's watching this just because they want some answers and they want to feel better in life, let's just honor that. It's a hard time right now for all of us on different levels, but it is our becoming. Going through this fear, facing it with love, learning who you are, staying true to the way love moves through you will get you through this time. And I just want to share that with everyone, that we're in that together right now.
Yes, and that human design as one way is like one of the, it sounds like one of the most, it's not new because it's very, I'm assuming it's very old in some ways, but it is like the something that's been recently given to us as a tool that can really help us do exactly what you're talking about in this moment of fear.
Yes, honor our own authority and not the systems or the programming that we've heard, so that we just trust our government blindly, trust police blindly. Like, these things are failing us. They're failing human beings. So where do we go? The age of the guru is over. We're not waiting for someone to come descend like Oprah and say, we're all doing this now. Not even she can do that. We have to be that for ourselves. We have to be our own authority. And this is one way to get more familiar with what's already your authority inside.
That is a beautiful, beautiful note to leave this discussion on. Again, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for this conversation. It was so generative. I loved it.
It was just such a pleasure, and we'll do it again. We'll do more. We'll talk about other things.
Sex and love.
Oh, yes, because beyond what we were talking about human design wise, please go check out Braden's online magazine. It's just, how many times do you release? Is it once a month? Or is it sort of whenever?
It's whatever. I was doing one every 2 weeks, and this next one I'm doing on the divine masculine, divine feminine is giving me, I'm really deep in it right now. So
amazing. We're gonna have to have another live just about that. So y'all stay tuned.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Braden. Mwah. Mwah.
Bye, guys.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.